Hey guys, I'm checking to see if we're live, making sure it's working. Okay, it looks like it's working. Is anyone here? I wait, I wait, I wait. So, as you can see, today we're going to be talking about the US government trying to wiretap Facebook Messenger and the rise of vehicular homelessness. These are not topics I really want to talk about. I'd want to talk about something happy, but that's not really possible right now. These are two very important topics, right? So, on one hand, we have this scary literal 1984 happening. And on the other hand, we're starting to see the wage gap between the poor and the wealthy get so significant that there is a rise in vehicular homelessness. They're starting to question about whether or not we should be opening up parking lots to allow for more people who live in their cars to have somewhere to be. So it looks like there's only one person watching for it now. If you could share this video. YouTube has not been notifying people when we go live. It's very common throughout the chat. I'll see someone be like, oh, 40 minutes into the stream, and I just got notified. Keep in mind, we have over 14,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. So when we have, 40 to 60 viewers on YouTube, and on top of that, having someone being like, oh, I got a notification an hour after you've been on, it's really kind of upsetting. So, but on that note, we are going to be launching the website pretty soon. It's looking like in a couple of weeks. I know I keep saying that, but our website guy is working really hard. And the ultimate goal is to not rely on YouTube or any of the social media platforms. Someone on our Facebook commented today? Yeah, it was today. It was earlier today. She was telling the status quo page that she saw the YouTube video that was there that was posted to social media, but then she went onto our YouTube channel and couldn't find it on the YouTube channel. So I go back onto the YouTube channel and it's there for me, but of course I'm part of the YouTube channel, so it would show it for me. So there's just all these little social media suppression tactics, but that's why we're going to get a website so you can sign up and you can get notifications straight to your phone, email, through the website, so we can just really do away with the amount of social media suppression happening. I tried to boost a post on Jordan's page and it wouldn't let me. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Facebook is asking for social security numbers if you want to boost a political post. And it's not even just for news. If you are an activist organization trying to bring awareness to your upcoming protest, you can't just boost it. You have to give your social security number now. But it wouldn't let me boost it on Jordan's page, and I was like, okay, awesome, this is good. Okay, so we've got some more people on, so I'm going to go ahead and get into this. We're going to start with the government trying to wiretap Facebook Messenger. So I don't know if you guys know, but when you're on Facebook Messenger, of course, obviously, Facebook is already reading everything you do on there and taking your data and feeding it off to advertisers. But Facebook says that their calls are encrypted. It's two-end encryption. So if I call you, you call me, our conversation on Facebook Messenger isn't going to go anywhere, besides maybe like the advertisers. But here recently, very recently, the US government seeks Facebook to help wiretap Messenger. I'm going to show you this article. Oops. Please excuse the trippiness. And over here, this is from Reuters. I love this news source. The US government is trying to force Facebook Inc. to break the encryption in its popular Messenger app, so law enforcement may listen to suspects' voice conversations in a criminal probe. 3 people briefed on the case said, resurrecting the issue of whether companies can be compelled to alter their products to enable surveillance. So, most of you, well, hopefully not most of you, but some of you watching might be like, you know, that's okay. That's okay if I'm getting spied on. I'm not doing anything wrong. So, whoever's doing something wrong, like, they get caught, right? And that, while that's a reasonable line of thinking, I don't think it is. Because here we are seeing dystopian novels that we used to be really afraid of playing out, right? I don't know if you guys watch Redacted tonight, but a couple of weeks ago he was talking about how even in airports now, there's going to be security officers dressed in plain clothes, armed. They're going to be armed, dressed in plain clothes, following around innocent people. And some of the alerts for the security guard is if the person's blinking too fast, if they're sweating, if they're looking at a gate from far away. So we're not just seeing this sort of dystopian multiverse play out in tech, we're also seeing it play out in real life. And these are things that we need to talk about. I don't want to talk about this. This is actually pretty miserable. I'm smiling, but I'm dead inside. But these are issues we need to talk about. I'm going to take you back over to the article so we can continue reading through it. Because then after that, I have to tell you how the Facebook's working with another government. That's not fun. Let's see. The Messenger issue arose in Fresno, California as part of the investigation of the M13 gang. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Donald Trump frequently uses the gang, which is active in the U.S. and Central America, as a symbol of lax immigration policy. The potential impact of the judge's coming ruling is unclear. If the government prevails in the Facebook Messenger case, it could make similar arguments to force companies to rewrite other popular encrypted services, such as Signal and Facebook's billion-user WhatsApp. I use Signal. I use a lot of other encrypted services, so this is particularly terrifying. Let's see. Facebook is arguing in court that Messenger voice calls are encrypted end-to-end, meaning that only 2 parties have access to the conversation. Ordinary Facebook text messages and other services are decrypted by the service providers during transit for targeted advertising or other reasons. The end-to-end encrypted communications, by contrast, go directly from one user to another without revealing anything intelligible to providers. Facebook says it can only comply with the government's request if it rewrites the code relied upon by all its users to remove encryption or else hack the government's current target, according to sources. Stephen Larson, a former judge and federal prosecutor, said the government must meet a high legal standard with seeking to obtain phone conversations, including showing where there's no other way to obtain evidence. And, like, the U.S. Constitution, as you see here, allows for reasonable searches, right? So, like, reasonable searches, not continuously wiretapping. Reasonable searches. But, of course, as a lot of legal terms are, reasonable is one of those legal terms that's meant to be vague, right? Because reasonable can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. What's reasonable to me may not be reasonable to you, right? And unfortunately, that comes with legal discourse. So we are going to talk about, well, first I'm going to go over to the chat. All right, nothing. Cool beans. I'm going to take you guys to an article that Glenn Greenwald, one of my favorite journalists ever, posted on The Intercept in December 2017. So it was in 2017, a little less than a year ago. So you're like, why does this pertain to this? It's like, well, I'm going to show you. So let's go to the desktop real quick. Excuse the trippiness. Facebook says it is deleting accounts at the direction of the U.S. and Israeli governments. Man, is that not like dystopia as fuck? If that isn't, I don't know what is. But it gets worse. So let's see. There was this one part over here. The issue with Israel being able to delete accounts and like Facebook being like, yeah, sure, is what makes the censorship particularly consequential is that 96% of Palestinians said their primary use of Facebook was for following the news. That means Israeli officials have virtually unfettered control over key communications from Palestinians. Now, just a quick backtrack real quick on the Israeli-Palestinian occupation that's going on. The U.S. is perpetuating propaganda about Russia and how Russia is like interfering with our elections and all this other stuff that they don't have proof for. But some of the more realistic threats are Saudi Arabia and Israel. They both actively go to Congress and tell our Congress people how to vote. And with Israel, it's particularly insane because they are occupying Palestine, right? And we all know that they are. But they're occupying Palestine with literal Nazis. They are enlisting white supremacist Nazis to go after Palestinians. So this is like another layer of censorship, another layer of control that the Israeli government has on Palestinians. It's not enough that they're going to their homes and shooting them with backed by U.S. money. That's not enough, no. They also have to use U.S. companies to censor these people. And U.S. companies are more than happy to comply. We're about to talk about, there's someone in here that I thought was particularly interesting. Dictator. Let's see. Let me scroll. I'm scrolling because there's this one part in this. Okay, here we go. I found it. Screws the trippiness. Facebook now seems to be explicitly admitting that it also intends to follow the censorship orders of the U.S. government. Earlier this week, in 2017, in December, the company deleted the Facebook and Instagram accounts of Ramzan Kadyrov, a repressive, brutal, and authoritarian leader of the Chechen Republic. To put it mildly, Kadyrov, who is given free rein to rule the province in exchange for ultimate loyalty to Moscow, he has been credibly accused of a wide range of horrific human rights violations, from the imprisonment and torture of LGBTs to the kidnapping and killing of dissidents. But none of that dilutes how disturbing and dangerous Facebook rationale for its deletion of his account is. Okay, so let's break this down. A Facebook spokesperson told the New York Times that the company deleted these accounts Not because this dude is a mass murderer and tyrant, but that his accounts were deactivated because he had just been added to the U.S. sanctions list and the company was legally obligated to act. The company was legally obligated to act, okay? A Facebook spokesperson has said that, right? So here we are in late-stage capitalism, and these companies are starting to act as corporate tentacles. Here I go again with my corporate tentacles for the U.S. government. They are actively shutting these things down. So let's, circle back to the U.S. wanting to wiretap Facebook Messenger. Let's also think back to the fact that the FBI is putting Black Lives Matter activists on their watch list. Antifa, anti-fascists, the people who are trying to stop this Nazi nonsense, are also on a watch list. So if the government wiretaps Facebook Messenger, who do you think they're actually going to be listening for? Given the rate of how many white men consistently start up shooting movies and high schools and all these other things, who do we think they're actually going to go after? And on that note, I don't know if you saw Jordan's videos, but Abby Martin's Empire Files got shut down by U.S. sanctions as well. If you haven't watched those videos, you should. I'm a big fan of Abby Martin and Empire Files. That's like serious journalism goals for me. So, not fun to talk about. I'm going to go over to the chat and see how you guys are doing. Capitalist biz are machines, no morals, no ethics. You are correct, Endosi. You are correct. So I'm going to finish this social media wonderfulness. Oh, excuse me. I burped a little. I just had pizza, so sorry. We're going to end this with an Edward Snowden quote because he sums it up so perfectly. Edward Snowden. Businesses that make money by collecting and selling detailed records of private lives were once plainly described as surveillance companies. Their rebranding as social media is the most successful deception since the Department of War became the Department of Defense. Man, isn't that just awful? Isn't that just great? So, on that note, we're going to talk about vehicular homelessness. I told you, today is not going to be fun. I'd like to bring good news sometimes, but today it's just not, because these are things we need to be talking about, and no one's talking about them. So at my gym, they have CNN and Fox News side by side. Side by side, right? So it's like 4 different screens, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fox News is down here, CNN's up here, and then there's like some other bullshit channels in between. And the amount of propaganda that happens on both is ridiculous. It's really uninspiring. Like, I guess to really put it in context, when I started really diving back into journalism about a year ago, I started rereading the Harry Potter series because it makes sense, right? Harry Potter is basically a political allegory for World War II and Hitler and the amount of government political shit that happens, all the corruption. It was delicious. So I was reading book 5 because that's where we are. It's book 5. But it really quickly got too real and got too scary. So I stopped. Anyway, on to vehicular homelessness. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Dun 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 dun. All the doo-dah day. Alright. desktop, excuse the trippiness. This is from Slate. Living behind the wheel, more Americans are sleeping in their cars than ever before. Should cities make space for them? Can you believe this is a real question we're asking ourselves in a supposedly first world country? Alright, so continue on. Each night at 6 p.m., San Diego's New Life Assembly Church opens its parking lot to dozens of people who will spend the night in their cars. The church is one of 3 sites in the city where the homeless can park overnight without fear of being ticketed or towed or worse. It's part of a citywide safe parking program that started in 2010. As housing costs soar in major cities, more Americans are living behind the wheel. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development doesn't collect national data on vehicle residency, but unsheltered homelessness. A category that includes people sleeping in vehicles is on the rise. In 2016, they counted 176,357 unsheltered people nationwide on a single night. On a single night. This isn't even on, on a monthly basis or a yearly basis. There's not 176,000 people yearly living in their fucking cars. It's on a single night. Last year, that number jumped, in 2017, jumped to 192,875. Again, I'm so peeved. I gotta look at you guys. Again, this isn't on a monthly basis, right? This isn't like a monthly number. This isn't even a yearly number. This is on a single night across the United States. That's bullshit. That's wrong. It's not okay. And the fact that churches and the question of, do we need to be opening up our parking spots for people who live in their cars to park safely? Hey, but our economy's doing well. I'm going to get to that. Don't worry. I'm going to get to our economy, and you'll see why it's not doing well. I mean, I'm sure you already know it's not doing well, but let's see. I'm going to go back to the article. Boop. The car has become a new form of affordable housing, says Graham Pruss, a researcher and former outreach worker for Seattle's Road to Housing program. After years of crackdowns, cities from Santa Barbara, California to Kirkland, Washington are trying a new strategy: safe parking programs. It's run by nonprofit Dreams for Change, has 3 lots with 150 spaces. The program has 325 residents. More than 2 people share a car, in some cases ranging from families to retirees to tech workers, making nearly $100,000 a year. And they sleep in models ranging from a Honda Civic to Lexus. Wow, even a Lexus. That says a lot. As vehicle residency grows, local governments have largely responded by trying to legislate it out of existence. Of course they're trying to get it out of existence. Why wouldn't they? Oops, sorry. Behind these laws, often championed by neighborhood groups and businesses, is the concern that vehicle residents, especially those in VR or campers, were being more trash. And it just goes on and on and on. This is from Slate. Again, this was very recent. So, what the article doesn't mention that I think it needs to be mentioning, it says neighborhood groups and businesses. Don't you mean gentrifiers? You know, like those super filthy rich people who go into cultured neighborhoods and then make them prosthetic? Yeah, that's what they mean. So we're about to look at a Forbes article. America's real economy isn't booming. And I want to show you something interesting about this particular article, because Forbes doesn't normally have articles titled like that. Forbes is very in line with the corporate establishment. They are very in favor of capitalism. Forbes, I mean, I guess they try to hide it, but they're doing a really bad job at it. Desktop. America's real economy isn't booming. See, so this guy is a contributor. Opinions expressed by Forbes contributor are their own. So this isn't Forbes, this is this dude, Peter George. I probably mispronounced that. There was a stat in here that he cited that I really wanted to take a look at. Oops, I think I went too far. Slow and steady inflation has eroded buying power over the past decade. According to The Nation, the minimum wage rose to $7.25 by 2009, but since then inflation has eroded 10% of its buying power. So this year someone will have to work 41 additional days to make the equivalent of the 2009 minimum wage. Healthcare costs are projected to go up 20% in the coming year. Credit card debt has crested at $1 trillion and is projected to increase at 4.7% by 2020. Wages have been increasing by only 2.9% a year. For the young, education debt has reached a record $1.52 trillion. How long is this sustainable? I don't know. See, and up here he talks about it takes an average of a little more than $100,000 per year now for a household to be able to live without anxieties about money. But just over here, we talked about some of these people making $100,000 and not, ranging from families to retirees to tech workers making nearly $100,000 a year. So these folks living in their cars who are making $100,000 a year, like kind of does debunk this little piece right here. So, I mean, we all know the economy isn't good, but seeing some of these stats and seeing the figures and the money really helps, I think, to put it into more perspective at how local it is. This is something real. It's near us. And the media, I'm going to shit on the media again. They're not talking about this. They're saying that the economy is doing well, when in fact, okay, this year, so what triggered the 2008 recession? There were a number of things, but there were three things that really did it, right? It was stock buybacks, inflation, and the housing bubble popping, right? So this year, after the tax cuts, corporations and rich people did the most stock buybacks. They did more stock buybacks now than they did in 2008. Inflation is offsetting wages, and they have been for the last 6 months. And the housing bubble is starting to burst. It hasn't completely hit, but it's starting to. I've been reading up on a lot of economists, and Joe Rogan had a stockbroker on his podcast. So there's a lot of different things at play here. Vehicular homelessness is on the rise. Yes, I'm smiling, but like I said, I'm dead inside. Let's see, I'm going to go over to the talk. I see them everywhere in Silicon Valley. NDOC says some are living in companies' parking lots. But anyway, that's about it. I'm going to stick these articles for you in the chat so you can see them. There's one. There's this one. There's that one. And I got one more. Boop. And there we go. So, like, these articles, right, people are writing about them, but I don't think the general public actually knows about them. This is information that's getting suppressed under all of the information garbage that we get on a daily basis through our phones and technology. So on that note, please don't forget to share. Don't forget to donate if you can. Status Q, paypal.me/statusq, patreon.com/Jordan Sheraton Reports, and I will be seeing you guys. Bye.